I still remember the night everything changed. It was raining so heavily it felt like the sky was falling apart with me. I stood in my empty living room watching movers carry out the last pieces of furniture I once proudly owned. Not because I wanted to sell them, but because I was forced to. And the man behind it wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an enemy. It was someone I trusted, like a brother Rian. If you told me a year earlier that he'd be the reason I'd lose my home, my savings, and nearly my sanity, I would have laughed. But betrayal has a way of sneaking up quietly, then hitting you where it hurts most. That night, as the last box left my house, I sat on the cold floor, asking myself the one question that kept haunting me. How could he do this to me? My phone buzzed with messages I couldn't bear to open. Everyone wanted explanations. But what could I say? That I had blindly trusted a man who smiled at me while pulling the ground from under my feet. My heart kept replaying the moment I learned the truth, the moment I realized everything he'd ever said was a lie. I didn't know it then, but losing everything was the beginning of something much bigger. Something that would turn the entire game around. And if Rian thought he'd broken me for good, he had no idea what I was capable of when cornered. Not yet, before the storm. Life felt smooth, almost too smooth now that I look back. Rian and I had met 5 years earlier at a networking event. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who made everyone feel seen. We quickly became close, shared work ideas, dreams, late-night talks about success and struggle. For me, he wasn't just a business partner. He was a friend I considered family. I invited him into my world with full trust, something I now regret. When he proposed the idea of starting a joint venture, a tech consulting startup, I didn't hesitate. Everything sounded perfect. Shared roles, shared risks, shared success. I invested my savings, my connections, and my time. The business took off faster than either of us expected. Clients praised our commitment, our teamwork. And all along, I believed we were building something meaningful together. What I didn't know was that Rian had been quietly building something else, a trap. He started handling the financial side to reduce my stress, convincing me it was better if he took charge of paperwork and client billing. I trusted him blindly. Meanwhile, he was planting seeds that would later grow into the perfect betrayal. Strange things began happening, invoices I had no access to, meetings he attended without me, decisions made behind my back. But I kept brushing it aside, telling myself he'd never hurt me. Maybe that's the problem with loyalty. It blinds you even while danger walks right beside you. I didn't see the storm coming until it hit me square in the face. The truth came crashing down one Monday morning. A government notice arrived at my doorstep, demanding immediate payment for unpaid taxes under my name, taxes for transactions I didn't even know existed. My heart raced as I flipped through pages filled with signatures. My signatures. Except they weren't mine. Someone had forged them, and I didn't need a detective to know who. I stormed into the office only to find Rian calmly sipping coffee as if the world wasn't burning around me. When I showed him the papers, he barely flinched. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Business is complicated. Maybe you signed them without remembering." That's when I saw it, the smirk, that tiny curl on his lips dripping with arrogance. He had done it. He had forged documents, moved money, registered assets under his name, and left me responsible for everything. I felt anger boiling beneath my skin, but shock was louder. How long had he planned this? How long had he waited for the perfect moment to strike? When I tried to confront him, he pulled the final blow. He fired me from the company I helped build. Said I wasn't mentally stable for leadership. His words cut deeper than the betrayal itself. I walked out of the building with trembling hands and a heart full of disbelief. Days later, banks froze my accounts, clients withdrew, and lawyers confirmed the worst. I had no proof of my innocence. Rian had already twisted the narrative. He took my company, my money, and my reputation. In one strike, he wiped my entire life clean. But while he celebrated, thinking he'd won, something inside me awakened. Something strong. Something vengeful. Everything spiraled faster than I could grasp. My landlord knocked to inform me that the rent hadn't been paid for 2 months, because the joint account Rian promised to manage had been emptied. Investors accused me of fraud, as Rian had already painted a picture of me as the reckless partner. Friends I once trusted drifted away, whispering behind my back. I wasn't just broke. I was humiliated. I learned Rian had taken my client list, my contacts, and my upcoming contracts, and redirected them to a new company he secretly registered months ago. The same company he used my resources to build. The day I lost my house was the day I realized he had planned every detail. The forged signatures, the hidden transactions, the sudden shift in his behavior, it all made sense now. I replayed every conversation, every smile he gave me, every time he said, "Trust me." Maybe he saw me as someone too naive, too innocent, too easy to manipulate. Maybe he thought taking everything from me would be the end of the story. But betrayal has a strange effect. It breaks you first, then rebuilds you sharper. That night, as I packed the few items I had left, something inside me hardened. I wiped my tears for the last time. If he wanted to destroy me, he should have done it completely. Because he left one thing standing, my determination. And that he would soon regret more than anything. Revenge didn't come to me instantly. It came slowly, through strategy, through clarity. Through the realization that beating him wouldn't require anger, it would require intelligence. I began by gathering every scrap of evidence I had ignored in the past. Old emails, voice messages, WhatsApp chats, where he had admitted handling finances. I contacted old clients, asked careful questions, and pieced together his pattern of manipulation. Step by step, the full picture emerged. He hadn't just betrayed me, he had done similar things before. Small schemes he covered up smartly. I met a former employee who told me everything. How Rian used dummy companies, how he transferred funds, how he hid assets. Finally, I had a thread to pull. I built a case, quietly, secretly, and strategically. My revenge wasn't about shouting, fighting, or trying to ruin him emotionally. It was about exposing him with undeniable truth. I reached out to an investigator who specialized in corporate fraud. Together, we rebuilt timelines, documents, and digital trails. While Rian posted photos online flaunting his success, I was preparing the storm he never saw coming. My plan was simple. Let him climb high enough so the fall would hurt more. Let him believe he had one. Let him feel untouchable. Because when the truth landed, it wouldn't just shake him, it would shatter everything he built on lies. And for the first time since the betrayal, I felt something new: power. The day everything turned around, I felt strangely calm. My investigator handed me the final report, complete evidence of Rian's misconduct. Fraud, forgery, fund diversion, asset theft, everything was documented clearly. I forwarded it to the authorities, investors, clients, and every partner he had manipulated. What followed was chaos. Investors pulled out instantly. Clients demanded refunds. His accounts were frozen. His new company shut down within days. And the man who once confidently smirked at me now ran from meeting to meeting, trying to explain the mess he created. The truth had finally caught up. I didn't need to confront him face to face. The evidence spoke louder than any argument I could ever make. Weeks later, I received a call. The authorities needed my statement as the primary whistleblower. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man who stole everything from me had unknowingly handed me the weapon to take everything back. Slowly, my reputation returned. Old clients reached out, apologizing for believing lies. Investors offered me new opportunities. I rebuilt my life piece by piece, stronger and smarter. And Rian, he lost everything he built on deceit. His fall was loud, public, and irreversible. But the story doesn't end with his downfall, it ends with a lesson. Betrayal may break you, but it also reveals your strength. Revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about reclaiming your power. And when someone takes everything from you, remember, sometimes, losing everything is what turns you into the person who can take the game back and win.